500,000 years ago, humans weren't hunters, they were hunted. In the wilds of Ice Age North Africa, bite-marked bones reveal a chilling truth. Our ancestors were prey. Saber-tooth cats with slicing fangs, giant hyenas with bone-crushing jaws. These weren't zoo animals. They were faster, fiercer, and always watching. Survival wasn't guaranteed. It had to be earned. Picture a lion, but 25% larger, heavier, and without a mane. All muscle. Now imagine dire wolves hunting in packs, their jaws strong enough to crush bones. Or worse, the short-faced bear. When it stood upright, it towered over 4 meters tall and may have been faster than any human on foot. Our ancestors weren't at the top of the food chain. They were somewhere in the middle, trying to stay alive in a world full of predators, and the danger wasn't limited to the land. As humans migrated, they followed the coasts, crossing frozen seas where they hunted great auks and large, flightless birds. Even the cold oceans held their risks. Every step forward was a gamble. So how did humans survive long enough to become who we are today? The answer lies in what they built, not just physically, but mentally. Early humans didn't just react to danger, they began to shape their world. By the time Homo sapiens reached Europe's frozen edges around 40,000 years ago, they weren't simply surviving the Ice Age, they were using it. They developed tools that could make other tools. One of the most important was a burin, a small rock chisel used to carve grooves in bone and antler. That groove became the base for fitting sharp stone blades. The result? Weapons that were strong, quick to replace, and easy to carry. Spears, knives, and harpoons that could be built and fixed on the move. If something broke during a hunt, they didn't stop. They adapted. This wasn't primitive guesswork. It was the beginning of something bigger: innovation, recursive thinking, planning beyond the moment. It turned fragile hunters into long-term survivors, and slowly, the hunted began to turn the tables. But even with these advancements, the odds were near suicidal. The game was mammoths, woolly rhinos, megafauna armored in blubber, bone, and rage. Even the best weapons of the time required the hunter to get close. Sometimes too close. One mistake meant being crushed under a 6-ton beast or skewered by tusks as long as a man is tall. Some archaeologists believe these hunters didn't just confront the beasts, they leapt on them, weapons in hand, no backup, no second chance. So why risk that? Because sometimes the prey was the only hope, and because over time, humans learned that the greatest weapon wasn't in the hand, it was in the landscape. In eastern France, at a site called Roche de Solutre, archaeologists uncovered one of the oldest examples of terrain-based hunting. Every year, large herds of animals, especially horses and reindeer, migrated through narrow valleys. Hunters began using controlled fires to guide them into these paths, steering them toward natural drop-offs. Once trapped near cliffs or enclosed spaces, the animals were taken down efficiently. It wasn't random. It was repeated across generations, with clear signs of organized, strategic planning. The kills were large, and the meat was preserved and stored, giving Ice Age humans not just food, but time. Time to prepare, recover, and plan ahead. But there was more. By stockpiling food and reducing the need for daily hunts, they lowered exposure to predators. Fewer risky chases, less wandering into danger. These hunts didn't just feed them. They gave humans breathing room in a brutal world and space to survive, think, and stay one step ahead of the beasts that stalked the dark. Then, something unexpected appeared. Alongside the bones of the hunted were other bones, burned, blackened, fractured by heat. These weren't cooking scraps, they were fuel. In areas where wood was scarce, humans turned to bone. Marrow-rich bones burn hotter and longer than wood. This wasn't guesswork, it was an understanding of fire chemistry. The same bones used for tools became fuel for light, warmth, and protection. This fire wasn't just about heat. It dried meat, hardened weapons, and kept predators like cave lions away. It even played a role in early rituals. But then came a mystery. During the coldest phase of the Ice Age, the last glacial maximum, evidence of fire almost disappears. Archaeologists found few, if any, hearths from this period. Why? Some believe glaciers wiped the traces away. Others think the strategy changed. Maybe fire use became more mobile and more flexible, less about comfort and more about adaptation. In colder, harsher conditions, even fire had to evolve. But the real shift wasn't just in flame, it was in thought. Homo sapiens began using something no predator on Earth had: language. As anthropologist Brian Fagan explains, early humans could speak fluently and plan far ahead. This wasn't just conversation, it was coordination. It was survival. They could warn each other about cave lions stalking the dark. They could map escape routes. They could coordinate flanking moves during hunts and build strategies to take down massive prey or avoid being prey themselves. Then came stories. These weren't just tales for fun. They were tools of memory, oral maps passed down from mouth to mouth, across generations. Stories carried knowledge of dangerous cliffs, flood zones, predator habits, and safe migration trails. Cave paintings were more than art, they were records. Many Ice Age murals show animals in such seasonal detail that modern biologists can identify the time of year. That's not art for art's sake, that's data. Survival data. Innovation didn't stop there. Around 30,000 years ago, the sewing needle was invented. This tiny tool was massive for survival. With it, humans could create layered, tight-fitting clothing from animal hides, gear that kept them warm, quiet, and quick in the snow. Clothing became as critical as weapons. Shelters evolved too. Contrary to myth, humans rarely lived deep in caves. Instead, they built smart. They used mammoth bones, hides, and wooden poles to create semi-subterranean homes, camouflaged, insulated, and hard for predators to reach. These structures were more than protection from cold. They were defense from the beasts lurking outside. Most importantly, humans shared. Language lets them spread this knowledge across tribes and generations. Instead of learning everything from scratch like animals, they passed wisdom down. That multiplied their chances of survival. So in the final flicker of Ice Age firelight, we don't see cavemen fumbling in the dark. We see engineers of survival. They turned cliffs into traps, bones into fuel, hides in the shelter, fire into safety, and community into strategy. They didn't just live in the Ice Age, they beat it. What about you? If you were dropped into the Ice Age tomorrow, no tech, no tools, what survival tricks would you use? Drop your ideas in the comments, let's discuss.